Gun control is a controversial issue in America because citizens argue rather a private citizen should or should not be able to own a firearm. Okay, so many Americans argue that a private citizen should be able to own a firearm pretty much under almost any circumstance. However, there are also a lot of Americans who argue that no private citizen under any circumstances should be able to possess a firearm. There are also a lot of Americans who argue that it should be the state's decision to determine what's best for the society instead of the federal government. Guns are responsible for over 33,000 deaths in the United States annually, according to the Centers for Disease and Control Prevention by Bagwell Schaefer and opposing viewpoints. So, that's crazy. 33,000 deaths annually. The main argument for why Americans shouldn't own guns or possess firearms is that it would dramatically decrease the amount of deaths in the United States, which is true, it would. But if someone wants a gun, they're gonna get a gun. And there are bad people out there, and guns are not gonna change their mindset. They're not gonna change them wanting to do something bad. I do think that stronger gun regulations could tremendously help the society, but it's not going to determine completely everything. So another main argument for them is that Americans don't feel safe in a society knowing private citizens possess firearms, and it should be just for like police officers and the law and stuff like that, not necessarily a private citizen, which is understandable because their point is, why do we need guns? We don't need them. But it really just depends how you look at the situation. However, there are also a lot of Americans who argue that pretty much almost any American should have the right to possess a firearm. There are already background checks when purchasing a firearm, but I do believe that those background checks should be even more highly regulated than they are now, and there should be high psychological tests that are in place. And yes, people can get around things. They can. If you want a gun, you're gonna get a gun. If a bad person is determined to get a gun, they'll get a gun. Gun control is not gonna change that. So at this point, we kind of have to look at it as a whole and see what would help the society the most. Nothing that we do is going to be able to completely protect everyone, everything, but we have to look at what's going to be the most effective in the society. The main argument for why Americans should be able to bear arms is for protection or for hunting. So it is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, an American has the right to bear arms. And some Americans think that that should be taken away. But there are also a lot of Americans who completely disagree. I think that guns can be a very good thing to have for protection. I don't think that everyone should have a gun. I think that they should be regulated, but not gun control. I just think that it should be harder to get a gun than it already is. However, there are also Americans that think it should be completely up to the states. Another potential factor in deciding whether state or federal government should regulate firearms is which level of government is in the best position to effectively enforce those regulations, from hardwood and gun control state versus federal regulations for firearms. So this is pretty much saying that we don't need to look at it versus like America versus a single state. We need to